today we want to look at Psalm 95 and this focus of thought, if you will, joy's experience. Joy's experience. Psalm 95 actually is a psalm that when we read it, there are parts of it that point back into the past, but then also forward into the future. And I'll show you that as we read through the psalm. Psalm 95 says, "O come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation." So this is our responsibility. We are to sing unto the Lord and make a joyful noise. And he's called the rock of our salvation. I've said it before, and it bears worth saying again. The rock. God brings stability into the life of the believer. Amen. If you're just scattered and just seem to have no bearing, you need Jesus Christ in your life. Amen. Because with Christ, there is stability. There is strength. The rock also speaks of strength, that he is our strength, that when the storms of life are raging, when we're dealing with the reality of the vicissitudes of life, that God is our strength. The psalmist goes on to say, "Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving and make a joyful noise unto him with songs." So once again, in the next verse, we are encouraged to come before the Lord with a joyful sound, and that it ought to be one of thanksgiving. We ought to always be telling the Lord, "Thank you, church." We ought to always find ourselves telling the Lord, "Thank you." Why? Because we have a lot to be thankful for. And as our foreparents used to say, you can't tell it like I can tell it what the Lord has done for me. You can't nobody tell your story like you but you. There are folks who think they may know some things, but you've been there and God has shown you some things, and you ought to be willing to open your mouth and tell the story and then tell God, "Thank you for all that you've done." Are y'all willing to get turned? It says, here's why. Verse number 3. "For the Lord is a great God and a great King above all gods." Small g God. There are a lot of people that worship other things, and those things are small g gods in their life. But those who know and love the Lord, God Almighty is our God. And there's nothing in this world that can replace God in your life. Small g God money. Small g God people. Small g God. Nothing can compare with God Almighty being in your life and your ability to say that the Lord walks with you and talks with you. The psalmist then goes on to say, "In his hand are the deep places of the earth. The strength of the hills is his also. The sea is his, and he made it, and his hands formed the dry land." So now, God is the creator of all. And verse number 6 then goes on to say, "Oh come, let us worship and" what? "Bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord, our Maker." There used to be a song in the old church they used to say, "Lord, if I'm too high, bring me down." But you ought to want to go ahead and voluntarily kneel down in the presence of Almighty God, knowing that he is our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. We belong to him. Amen. Do you know that today, church? You belong to the Lord. When you realize that you belong to the Lord, and the Lord can talk to you and tell you what to do, and you will receive it with joy, knowing that the Lord knows more than you or I. And as a matter of fact, the Lord knows more than you and I. So we can put all our knowledge said this. Now watch this. In the midst of the verse, he pivots and says, today, if ye will hear his voice, harden not your heart. Did you hear that, church? When God is talking, you ought to receive what he has to say. Someone said, now, when you don't, you essentially hardened your heart. And now, remember I said earlier, this is the part that both points back and forward that the psalmist writes. He says, harden not your heart as in the provocation and as in the day of temptation in the wilderness when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my work. 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and said, it is a people that do err in their heart, and they have not known my ways. Unto whom I swear in my wrath that they should not enter into my rest. Now the psalmist, he points them back to what God did for them when they were coming out of Egypt, headed to the promised land. If you're interested, the book of Exodus, chapter number 17, and I'm just going to read it because the Lord can say it better than I can. Exodus chapter 17 and verse number 1. God has his children out of the clutches of Pharaoh in Egypt, headed to the promised land. But that's just a problem that the children have that all too often finds itself in our situation. They complain. They murmur. They are not satisfied with what God is doing. And so chapter 17, all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeys according to the commandment of the Lord, and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. We got a problem, y'all. Wherefore, the people did chide with Moses. That word chide, they started arguing with Moses and said, give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord? Moses does something for them they don't realize. Moses said, y'all arguing with me, but really, y'all arguing at the Lord. Y'all using me as your scapegoat. But what it is said that you really don't trust the Lord. Because it was the Lord that brought them out of Egypt. It was the Lord that opened the Red Sea. It was the Lord that sent them manna from on high. And when they started complaining to the man of God, they essentially were complaining against God. Moses said, now, he cries unto the Lord, or the people thirsted for water. And the people murmured against Moses and said, wherefore is this that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst? Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, what shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me. But that sounds like a church coming. There are times when folks are just so unsatisfied, dissatisfied, that they don't realize that this is God's business. And that you got to talk to God and ask the Lord, Lord, what would you have us to do? Notice here, instead of praying to God, instead of falling down on their knees, they prefer to argue the issue. And Moses said, Lord, what I'm going to do? I can't handle all this. Well, don't you know the Lord got an answer? Amen. And so now that's for every preacher, amen. To realize that you don't have to argue and fuss with nobody. If God is your God, and God is the one who has called you to lead them, you got to go talk to God about this thing. Moses cried unto the Lord and said, the people there ready to stone me. The Lord said unto Moses, go on before the people, and take with me the elders of Israel, and thy rod wherewith thou smotest the river, take in thine hand and go. Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. So now, that smiting of the rock, scholars and theologians tell us that as we study the scripture, it points to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. That Christ, the smitten rock, died on the cross of Calvary. That ultimately he produced that fountain of living water. That water that never runs dry. Y'all didn't hear with me today, church? And so here's an Old Testament picture that if you put your faith and your trust in Jesus Christ, no matter how bad the situation is, if you look to the Lord, he'll make it all right. Yes, he will. Now, the next verse is key. Because it says, and he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, is the Lord among us or not? Massah. That's interesting. That place where they were chiding, where they were murmuring, two names were ascribed to it. Massah, meaning they tempted God, or they doubted God. They were unfaithful to the God who had already been faithful to them. But then the second name that was given to the place, Meribah, meaning quarreling. They just didn't complain. They took it to another level. They were quarreling. The provocation. They provoked Almighty God. So now the psalmist says to them in the psalm, he looks back and says, now remember what God did for those whose hearts were hardened, that he had been so good to them. And they couldn't see the goodness of God. They could only complain. Harden not your heart when you hear the Lord. Well then, looking forward in the book of Hebrews, chapter 3 and chapter 4, you'll find the same reference even to the New Testament saint. Don't harden your heart. Don't be like those stubborn folk back there when God did so much for them and they found it hard to simply tell God thank you. Y'all in here with me today, church? This Psalm 95 both looks back and it was a forward look to remind those who would come on later on that God has been good to us. And can I say that on my way to my seat? God's been good to us. And it ought not take anybody having to pump you up and nobody pulling your string for you to realize that you owe God the praise. And God has brought you and me from a mighty long way. Anybody can testify to this? Don't provoke God. Because Joy's experience is that God is always good. Even when times are hard, God is always good. In closing then, let's go back to verse 1 and 2 because something very interesting occurs in verse number 1, verse number 2. It says this, come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving and make a joyful noise unto him with a song. Now, the peculiar word there is us. The psalmist writes that and he says, let us. Here's why us here is peculiar. Collectively, we ought to sing praises unto the Lord. Amen. Because what God has done for us. Amen. When we sing praises unto the Lord, and we do it with a heart of thanksgiving. Here's what it sounds like. And Simeon's going to play a chord on the piano so that you can hear the harmony of when we realize all of us got something to tell God thank you. That's how it sounds, church. When us realize how good God been to us. But here's the peculiar thing about us, and I said it earlier. You can't tell my story from me. I gotta be willing to open my mouth and tell God thanks. Now, here's what it sounds like when us don't lift up our voices. When us act like we got here all by ourselves. When us act like it's a crime to clap our hands. When us act like it's a crime to open our mouth. Then, listen to this. Did you hear the difference in the sound? First sound. Second sound. And y'all, that's what it's like sometimes if we're not careful. When we come up in here and act like we're doing God a favor, and that we don't have a responsibility individually to give God the praise, it has a weird sound. Amen. On my way to the fleet this morning, I was trying to practice those chords. And I have a little keyboard at the house, and my wife heard me. She was at the other end of the house, and she heard me. And when I was playing the chord in harmony, it was all right. And then I just kind of laid down on it and just was making sounds like that. And she came all the way from the other end of the house and walked in. She asked me, "What is wrong with you? What are you doing?" In other words, she said, "You know better than that. You can play better than that." Well, church, when we get here on a Sunday morning, we ought to lift up our voices in harmony and praise because we got the heart of joy. So when you come to God's house and your heart has been hardened and you don't do what God tells you to do and you won't tell God thank you, it has a weird sound to it. And you know better than that. You don't need me to stand here and tell you God be good to you. You know that God woke you up this morning. You know God been taking care of you all your life long. You know you want God to praise. You ought to be willing to open your mouth and say, "Glory, hallelujah." You ought to be willing to clap your hands and give God the praise. Every now and then, you ought to get up out of your seat. Rise up and tell God thank you. Can you rise up and give God the praise? Joy's experience tells you that it's nobody but God. Joy tells you that now unto Him that's able to do exceeding abundantly above anything that we may ask or think, according to the power that worketh in us. When the Holy Spirit is in you, church, you can't be quiet. When the Holy Spirit stirs in your heart, you just have to find some way to manifest the joy of the Lord, which is your strength. God bless you. God keep you.